The dragon had not meant to drift so far from her home world, yet the cold silence of space had wrapped around her like an endless ocean and carried her away from everything she had ever known. She remembered the last sight of her crimson skies burning above the crystal mountains of a people as her wings tore through the atmosphere in desperate escape from a war she did not understand. Her name was Lyra, and she was young by the measure of her ancient kind, yet old enough to feel the ache of exile and the heavy echo of loneliness that followed her across the stars. The galaxy was not kind to solitary creatures, and the vast dark between systems pressed against her scales and whispered that she was small despite her immense wingspan and blazing heart. For cycles she flew by instinct, feeding on starlight and drifting cosmic embers, letting the radiation brush against her like faint warmth from a dying fire. She avoided the trade routes of the larger civilizations because dragonkind was rare and feared, and many who saw a silhouette against the sun would mistake her for a weapon rather than a living soul. Her wings began to weaken after months of travel, and the fire in her chest dimmed to a cautious glow as she searched for somewhere quiet to land and rest. That was when she saw the pale blue dot of Earth turning gently in the darkness, unaware that a creature from myth was descending through its atmosphere. Lyra folded her wings and allowed gravity to claim her as she fell like a shooting star blazing with restrained flame, careful not to ignite the clouds or terrify the sleeping cities below. She aimed for a quiet stretch of land near a highway where neon lights flickered beside a lonely road, and the scent of cooked meat drifted into the night air. The building she landed behind was small and square with a glowing sign that read open 24 hours, and the word Dinah shone in soft red letters above the entrance. She shrank herself using the last of her ancient magic, drawing her massive body inward until she was no larger than a large dog with folded wings and shimmering bronze scales. The alley was cluttered with crates and the hum of a refrigeration unit vibrated through the ground beneath her claws as she crouched in confusion. The smells overwhelmed her senses, spices, oil, sugar, and something sweet and burnt that made her stomach twist with unexpected hunger. Lyra had eaten stars and comets, yet this scent was different, warmer, closer to the ground, like comfort made edible. Inside the diner, a bell chimed as a truck driver stepped out into the night, and Lyra watched him through the cracked door, her golden eyes reflecting the fluorescent lights. He did not see her at first, and when he did, he blinked twice and muttered that he must be more tired than he thought. Lyra tilted her head, unsure whether to flee or approach, and the man simply shrugged and held the door open as if inviting a stray animal inside. The warmth hit her like sunrise, and she stepped cautiously across the threshold, her claws clicking softly against the tile floor. A waitress with tired eyes and kind hands looked down at her, and instead of screaming, she smiled and said that someone had better call animal control, or maybe not, because the creature looked harmless. Lyra did not understand the words, yet she understood tone, and the tone was gentle. The waitress brought out a small bowl of water and placed it near the booth where Lyra had curled herself beneath the table. The water tasted strange compared to the mineral streams of her home, yet it soothed her parched throat and cooled the ember in her chest. A cook in the back leaned over the counter and laughed, saying that the place had seen stranger things during the late shift. Lyra listened to the hum of human conversation and the clatter of plates, and felt something unfamiliar unfold within her ribs. It was not hunger and not fear, but a fragile thread of belonging. The truck driver slid into the booth and dropped a piece of cooked bacon near her bowl, watching her reaction with amused curiosity. She sniffed it cautiously and then tasted it, and the flavor burst across her senses, richer than stardust and warmer than solar flares. Her tail thumped once against the floor before she caught herself remembering that she was supposed to be dignified. The waitress laughed softly and said that the dragon liked bacon, as if that were the most natural statement in the world. Lyra decided in that moment not to reveal her full size, not to stretch her wings against the roof, not to ignite the walls with a careless breath. She would remain small for now because small felt safe. Days turned into nights, and she stayed in the alley behind the diner, sleeping atop flattened cardboard and listening to the rhythmic hum of traffic. The staff began leaving scraps for her, and the waitress, whose name was Maria, would sometimes sit beside her during breaks, speaking softly about her own loneliness. Maria did not know she was confiding in an ancient being older than empires, and Lyra did not know the specifics of Maria's struggles, yet they shared the language of sighs and quiet understanding. Lyra learned that humans were fragile yet fiercely determined creatures who carried entire worlds inside their hearts. One evening a storm rolled in fierce and sudden, and thunder cracked across the sky, reminding Lyra of the war that had driven her from home. She trembled in the alley, her magic flickering as memories threatened to tear her small form apart. Maria found her shaking and wrapped a dry towel around her scales, whispering that everything would be all right. No one had spoken such words to Lyra since her mother had nudged her toward the sky and told her to survive. The towel smelled of soap and warmth, and Lyra pressed her head gently against Maria's shoulder, careful not to scratch. In that simple gesture, something shifted, and the loneliness that had haunted her across galaxies loosened its grip. Word spread among the regular customers that the diner had a resident dragon, and instead of fear, most reacted with fascination and delight. Children would peer through the windows, hoping to catch a glimpse of the shimmering creature who guarded the back door. Lyra discovered that she enjoyed their laughter and the way their eyes widened with wonder rather than terror. She had been taught that other species would hunt dragons for power or prestige, yet these humans simply wanted to share fries and stories. One night a group of rough men stumbled into the alley seeking trouble, and one of them tried to kick Lyra aside as if she were nothing. The ember in her chest flared, and before she could stop herself, a thin stream of fire shot across the pavement, stopping just short of the man's boots. The men fled shouting in panic, and Lyra shrank further into the shadows, ashamed of her temper. Maria rushed out of the commotion and found scorch marks glowing faintly on the ground. Instead of scolding Lyra, she placed a hand on her scaled head and thanked her for protecting the diner. For the first time since leaving her world, Lyra felt not like a weapon but like a guardian. Seasons shifted and the neon sign flickered through heat and frost while Lyra remained. She began helping in small ways, using gentle heat to warm the kitchen during a power outage and keeping stray animals away from the trash bins. The cook joked that business had improved since the dragon arrived, as if customers sensed something magical in the air. Lyra sometimes gazed at the stars from the roof and wondered if her kind searched for her or if her home had already forgotten her name. The ache remained, yet it was no longer sharp. It was softened by the rhythm of coffee refills and late-night laughter. One quiet dawn, Maria joined her on the roof, holding 2 cups of coffee and handing one to a dragon who pretended to drink. Maria spoke about dreams of traveling beyond the highway, beyond the small town, beyond the limit she had accepted. Lyra listened and realized that humans too were wanderers even when they never left the ground. The galaxy had not abandoned her. It had guided her here to a place of grease-stained aprons and chipped mugs where kindness burned brighter than stars. When a news crew eventually caught wind of the story and cameras appeared near the diner, Lyra felt fears stir once more. Exposure meant risk, and risk meant hunters. Maria knelt beside her and said that if Lyra wished to leave, she would understand. Lyra looked at the doorway glowing with familiar light, and at the people inside who had unknowingly adopted a dragon. She understood then that home was not a planet or a sky, but a choice. With a final glance at the horizon, she chose to stay. The cameras captured only a fleeting shimmer before Lyra vanished from sight, shrinking into the safety of the kitchen shadows. Rumors spread, yet proof remained elusive, and the diner continued to serve pancakes under the watchful eyes of a hidden guardian. Lyra no longer felt lost in space because she had been found in a human diner. And though her journey across the stars had begun in exile, it had led her to a place where even a dragon could belong without fear. Each night as a bell above the door chimed, she felt the ember in her chest glow steady and warm, not with loneliness but with quiet contentment. The galaxy was vast and often cruel, yet in a small roadside diner on Earth, a lonely dragon discovered that even the oldest of beings can find family in the most unexpected corners of the universe.